2024 recap. What do we expect in 2025? A few tips at the end. If you're thinking about buying a home in Oregon now or in the near future, you're going to want to watch this video. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel Living in Oregon. I am your host, Seth Marchant, licensed real estate broker in the state of Oregon and Washington. Or if you're new to this channel and you'd like to see more about what it's like to live here, we've got over 100 videos on the channel. We release new videos every single week showing you exactly what it's like to live in Oregon, really focusing around the Portland metropolitan area, including Vancouver, Washington. So if you want to see more videos like that, make sure and subscribe to this channel. A lot of those videos are going to show you what the area is like, a lot of neighborhood tours, things like that. Some of these videos are going to talk to you about market conditions. I usually do about one of these videos every quarter. We're at the end of the year, so let's talk about what happened over 2024 and what we might expect coming into 2025. Case-Shiller has home prices up 4.57% year over year. Oregon, according to Redfin, is up 3%, and Portland proper, is up 1.4% for the year, despite population decline, which hasn't really been a thing up until recently. If you actually want to see a little bit more about that, we have a video on population decline right there. And we are seeing some people leave Portland, but they're mostly leaving Portland for the suburbs, Washington County, Clackamas County, also leaving Portland for Central Oregon, which is a really popular area. So we're not necessarily seeing population decline in Portland for people that are leaving the state like we're seeing in some other states, but we are seeing some people leave the city. Not unique to Portland, of course, with work from home and people looking for more space, home offices, things like that. We're seeing a lot of people leaving the big cities for the suburbs. And of course, that's impacting the real estate market. But spoiler alert, the crash is not coming. I feel like I can say that pretty confidently at this point. If you followed me for long enough, particularly years, I've kept my story pretty consistent. I just don't see home values, not to be confused with prices, I don't see home values going down. Now, home prices and home values, those two things are correlated. A home price is what a home sells for. A home value is what a home could potentially sell for. Home values are determined by home prices, so these two things correlate, but they're not the same thing. So if you see a chart that says home prices have gone down, it doesn't necessarily mean that home values has gone down. And really all that stuff is just, for the most part, clickbait. There's tons of videos on YouTube just like this that are calling for a crash, that are predicting a crash. And the reason why that is, a little YouTube secret, well, it's not unique to YouTube. It really applies to all platforms. It applies to newspapers, I guess. But negative stories tend to get more engagement than positive stories. So if we talk about home prices going down, those videos just tend to do better than if we say home prices are going to go up. Negative news, like if there's maybe, let's say, an earthquake, some sort of catastrophe, those things tend to get more clicks, more watch time, more eyeballs, more engagement, as opposed to something more positive. A firefighter rescues a cat from a tree, some feel-good, fuzzy story. Those things don't get as much traction. They don't get as much engagement. So for that reason, a lot of this narrative of home prices crashing is just kind of fueled by that negative engagement type of content. Now, me personally, I don't love the negative stuff. If I'm going to give you 15, 20 minutes of content every week, I want it to be positive. I like the positivity. I don't love the negative stuff. But the reality is, we like to show you both sides and give you all the information. If we do a video of 10 reasons why you shouldn't move to Portland, it's always going to do better than 10 reasons why you should move to Portland. Now, I'd rather talk to you about why you should move to Portland, but so sometimes that information is important. But again, my point being, a lot of the stuff that you've been seeing probably since 2020, 2021 has really just been clickbait for that reason. Now, if the crash does come and I am wrong, I'll admit it. I'll eat my sock or something, whatever it may be. I will make a video admitting that my predictions were wrong, but I've yet to have to make that video since I've been doing this in the past 4 years. And I don't think I'm going to have to make a video like that coming up in 2025. Big reason is going to be, like we've talked about so much, inventory. Inventory just will not outpace demand. And if you remember the last crash that we had in 06, 07, that wiped out a lot of home builders. A lot of home builders went bankrupt and have not since yet come back to the market. So as far as home production goes, we're not where we were actually pre-06, 07. We're trying to get back there. There's a lot of sentiment. You've maybe heard during this most recent presidential election, this topic came up a little bit, talking about incentives for first-time home buyers, cutting red tape. We're going to build a certain number of homes. So there is talk about some of these things. And I did actually make this prediction in some past videos. I did predict that we might see some legislation coming from the government at some point to help subsidize or incentivize the real estate market. So this is definitely a problem that a lot of people are trying to solve. We just don't have necessarily the tools to do it. You can't just magically, make home builders appear. Now there is a lot of other impediments like red tape and affordability, but that's a big one too. Just not having the people there to do the job that we need. And we've also got a lot more people coming here. We've got a lot of people immigrating to this country. So it's real hard to see any reasons why inventory might outpace demand. If I were to maybe try and find something in the near future, the only thing I can really find is maybe baby boomers. And we're talking about like 5 to 10 years, not a year or two, but maybe baby boomers in the next 5 to 10 years. There's a lot of baby boomers that are in larger houses that are empty nesters. People that are living in, 2 people that are living 3 to 4 bedroom houses that could potentially downsize. And we could have some younger people, some younger families upsize into those homes. Oftentimes when those older demographics move, they move in with family. So we've seen a lot more multi-generational living more recently. So if that type of trend continues, if we see a lot of boomers that are moving to smaller units, people with bigger families can move to bigger units, or those boomers are moving in with family, that might open up a little space for a little bit more inventory. But it's not anything that's really dramatically going to change the equation. There's nothing that signals that we could possibly get a crash anytime here in the near future. If you're not familiar with what happened in 06, 08, I've talked about it quite a bit in the past, but all of the variables are considerably different. We're just not going to see something like that again. If we did see some sort of crash, it's not going to be for the reasons that we did see that in 06 and 07, 08. And some of the most recent data really supports that. If you want to see the most recent market report, I'll include that in the link a link for that in the description of this video. One thing that really jumped out to me was month over month, 25% up in pending sales. And that comes right at the heels of interest rates. This is, if you remember back in September, we had rates getting close to 6%, and then the Fed did a cut, and people expected rates to continue to go down, but rates actually went up. I did a video covering that and covering why that was. Well, all those people that closed last month in November would have gotten under contract the previous month in October, maybe sometime late September, right when rates started going up. So normally when rates go up, you see you have this effect of rate shock. People need to adjust their budget or expectations or whatever it may be. So it usually slows the market down a little bit. In this case, we actually saw a pretty big jump at a time of the year when it's usually slower in pending sales. And that's coming at a time where since 2020, since that little boom that we had kind of around lockdowns, we saw transactions slowly go down year over year, fewer and fewer transactions as interest rates went up. So that number is a little bit surprising to see. Realtors are definitely feeling the effect. I saw a stat for one of the MLSs that I'm a part of, the NWMLS, which is Southwest Washington. That's where Vancouver is, Vancouver, Washington, on the other side of the river. They shared a stat that 43% of their members have not done a single transaction for 2024. It's a little bit surprising. It's not cheap to be a realtor. All of these MLSs, these associations, there's a lot of fees. It's not cheap just to hold a broker's license. So to not do one transaction for an entire year, it's probably not going to be viable for a lot of realtors. We've kind of heard this over the last year or two with transactions going down. I haven't seen any of the numbers yet, but we expected fewer and fewer licenses to be renewed, and the pace of people getting new licenses maybe to slow down a little bit. In other words, this market of realtors has been very saturated. We expect there to be fewer realtors with transactions going down. Now, that is just a point that I wanted to mention, because there are some people that reach out to us realtors, especially realtors like us on YouTube, that reach a lot of people well in advance, 6 months, 12 months in advance. And just know that not every realtor is going to be around for the next 12 months. So if you want to start a relationship with somebody, if you're going to start working with somebody, you want to feel confident that person's actually going to be around when it comes time for you to move a year, maybe even 2 years from now. Usually people, the soonest they reach out to us in advance is usually like 6 months, but occasionally we'll get somebody that's like a year or two down the road. So something to think about when you're reaching out to realtors, when you're thinking about moving. Now, as far as the market being balanced, we've talked about that a lot in the past. It's still really leaning towards a seller's market in most cases, but it's really neighborhood by neighborhood, and even more specifically than that, property by property, depending on how aggressively the property is priced, how it's marketed, how it's presented, things like that. So it's pretty close to being balanced, but still leans towards a seller's market. And again, that's just not going to change until we see the inventory change. Now, how about rates? So I mentioned the Fed cut a moment ago here. Rates have also been the big talk other than inventory. And I'll admit, I haven't always got rate predictions right. They're very difficult. Most realtors don't even like to weigh in on these things and try and predict these things because they are so difficult. But I, like probably many people, thought that rates would probably be a little bit lower than they are now. And if you watched my video last quarter, about a month ago, we expected rates to potentially continue to go down and trend down into 2025. With the most recent inflation data, that might not be the case. Now, as it stands right now, the Fed is going to meet on the 18th of this month, so just in a couple of days. And there is a very high likelihood that they are predicted to cut rates again by 0.25%. They cut them about a month ago, a quarter back in September. They cut them 0.5 point, so almost a full point since September. So late Q3 into Q4. So almost just one quarter going down almost a full point. Yet mortgage rates are really about the same as where they were 2 or 3 quarters ago. So for various different reasons, we're not seeing the Fed rate cuts mirror mortgage rates as closely as we had in the past. And with those pesky inflation numbers, we're going to expect maybe the Fed is going to pause cutting. Maybe they'll raise rates in 2025. So if you've watched me for long enough, and this is a reason why a lot of people say that they reach out to me to work with me as a real estate broker. I call it how I see it. And how I see it for 2025 is not going to be great. It's not going to be great for buyers, and it's not going to be great for sellers. Affordability is going to be difficult with high rates, and that's going to make it difficult for sellers to maximize their profits too. So it's really a weird market in that it's not going to be great for buyers or sellers in 2025. Now, with that being said, as I mentioned, Case-Shiller has home prices going up over 4% over the past year. That's kind of how it's been for most of the country. 2020 went up about 20%, 21 about 20%, 22, 23, 24. A lot of the country was anywhere from like 1 to 5%. Very few places actually went down in value, or prices actually went down year over year. A lot of places were 1 to 5%. And I don't see that changing next year or 2 years or 5 years or 10 years from now for the reasons that I mentioned. So I do believe that real estate is still a great investment. If you're buying a property to be your primary dwelling, and if you think that home prices cannot continue to go up, I can give you a lot of examples where, well, other people have also been very surprised. One that really comes to mind, if you never looked at the real estate market in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, not the United States, look at their home prices, look at their home values. They also thought the same thing because home prices just got so high. I think your average home prices for a single family home in Vancouver, British Columbia is over $2 million. This is like Manhattan prices. This is like Bay Area, San Francisco prices. I looked up the median income for an individual in British Columbia. It was about $62,000, which is about $80,000 American. How do these people afford it? I don't know. If anybody wants to weigh in on how people in British Columbia with a median income of 80,000 American dollars are affording $2 million homes, feel free to do so in the comments. But I do know that it's happening, and so there's been a lot of precedent where people thought home values can't go up. They're just they're too high already, which unaffordability is historically high. So I get the point. But that didn't stop home values and prices to continue to go up and for people to continue to buy those properties. So I do still think that real estate is a good investment, especially a good investment as a hedge against inflation. Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of what we saw in the last couple of years in the next couple of years to come. We're not going to see a 2020 or 2021 again. I mean, it's, like the Vancouver thing, that's hard to imagine too. 2020 home values went up 20% year over year. So if you had a $500,000 house, it was worth $600,000 the next year. Obviously, that's not sustainable. So we probably won't see anything like that anytime in the near future, but we're just not going to see home values go down. So for that reason, when you are buying a home, it is more important than ever to have a professional that's going to be able to guide you through that process and actually get you to the finish line with a property that you want to be in, that's fitting within your budget. We are seeing some unique things that we haven't seen in years past. One little pro tip for you people out there that we're kind of seeing that maybe some people are dropping the ball on is homeowners insurance. Normally in the past, you kind of look into your homeowners insurance towards the end of the transactions, like maybe one of the last things that people tend to do. And, it's usually not too much more than what you're already paying. Or if you're a first-time buyer, you would have gone over rates with the loan officer earlier. And they probably hadn't changed, much since the 6 or 12 months ago that you initially talked to that loan officer. Whereas now we're seeing rates really skyrocketing. And to the point of before, your homeowner's insurance barely made a dent in your mortgage payment. That's why, maybe you waited. It really wasn't much of a consideration until towards the end of the transaction, whereas now we're actually seeing some homeowners insurance that's making a pretty big impact on people's mortgage payments, so much so that it's making it unaffordable for some people. Actually killing a deal that's actually under contract that doesn't close because the homeowners insurance was too much. So pro tip right now, one of the biggest things that people are looking out for or encountering when it comes to affordability, if you're one of those people that really has to stretch your budget and really has to mind the rate so it fits within your budget for your monthly mortgage payment, look into homeowners insurance early. If you want us to get you connected with somebody that can assist with that, we can certainly do so. So for 2025, I don't anticipate home prices going down. Don't really anticipate rates going down. They might not go down at all. A quarter ago, I said something slightly different. Again, looking at all of the signals, all the indicators, we had a lot of reasons to believe that rates would go down in 2025. Now it's looking like that might not be the case. So affordability is not going to improve in 2025. It's going to be more important than ever to really be on top of your game when it comes to doing a real estate transaction. There's probably going to be some deals out there. There always are. With population decline in Portland, there might be a few places where home values or home prices are going down. Maybe not some place that you want to live, but nevertheless, might be the case in some places. New builders, new construction has some great incentives. Nobody's probably going to catch this in time for the end of the year. If you have cash, you can do it. You can usually close in about 10 business days. So it might be possible for some of you cash people to still close before the end of the year. There's a ton of great incentives for any builder right now that has something sitting ready to close on that they want to close up their books on for 2024. And then builders will still have some good incentives we anticipate in 2025 as well. So I think it's going to be tough in 2025. Mortgage payments are going to be high and choices are going to be low. If you are thinking about moving, any questions at all, I invite you to call, text, email, however you want to get in touch. You can hit that QR code. If you're watching from TV, like so many of you do, that'll take you to our website where you can find all of our information and more. If this video was helpful, give me a thumbs up, hit that like button. Leave us a comment. Let us know what your plans are for 2025. Do you think home values are going to go down? I'm always I'd love to listen to differing opinions. So if somebody has some insights on that, feel free to share your comments about what you think the market's going to be like. And of course, make sure and subscribe to this channel. This is the best channel if you want to see what it's like to live in Oregon. Again, we release new videos every single week, myself and another Paul Klim. So you get a couple of different perspectives, both lifelong Oregonians. So we know the area pretty well. And we always look forward to making videos for our new subscribers. So make sure and subscribe. And until next time, take care, everyone.